What up, everybody? I'm Jack Slater, aka the Comic Outlaw, yeah! And I'm back, the man with the plan, baby! And we're coming back with Astonishing X-Men, and it's getting wild, y'all. And I'm gonna tell you right now, when I held this issue in my hands the first time, whew, it gave me chills. Easily one of my favorite issues. And Sabretooth is actually one of my favorite characters through the whole series. I'm just gonna lay that out there right here and now. Alright, what's going on? Rogue's team has been sent to stop the calling, and basically they're just murdering everyone. This is Apocalypse's final solution. He's murdering the weak humans, he's using their bodies, they're processing them, and he's making more soldiers. But he's playing a little game with them. He's sending probes out so they'll run in terror. He has to break these people down. Apocalypse has a very sick sense of humor. And Sunfire can no longer take this. He's had this happen in his own country. He watched his family die, and he just breaks, and he fires off, and he starts to destroy everything. Now, everyone knew that he was a few burritos short of a full taco platter, if you know what I'm saying. But he was gone, and he's blowing everything away. And Rogue tries to stop him, and she has no choice, and I mean absolutely no choice. She has to take off the glove. And she touches him, and as she does that, Morph is kind of worried because, like I said, he's not the brightest bulb in the whole factory. So going into that mine might cause bad effects on her. And we don't need two people to flip out at this moment, but she feels his soul cold as ice, and she sees what happened. His family killed, someone bathing in their blood. It is Apocalypse. His nemesis holds him, and he drowns him in the blood of his family before he is captured and experimented on. And he cries out this was his shame, his pain. But Rogue sees it. But now they have to put that behind them and fight. They have to fight for civilization. As Magneto sits alone, holding his child, his bishop goes in, wondering where he is while others are putting their lives on the line. What's he doing? But he's there holding his child, taking a moment to realize what's important. And he realizes that if this world is a lie, then his son will disappear. But he knows that true love is not a lie. It's precious. The love of a child is eternal. It's something worth fighting for. Meanwhile, Apocalypse is pissed because he's having problems from everywhere. Magneto's troops are striking at every point, and he wants some good news, or he's going to murder someone. And a little toady comes in and delivers a message to him. They finally found out where he lives, in Westchester, in Charles Xavier's old house, and Apocalypse just has himself a good villain belly laugh, realizing that they've been under his nose the whole time, and he's going to personally deal with Magneto himself. Meanwhile, Creed has gathered Blink, and he's asked her to teleport him where Holocaust is, where he could buy some time, because he knows Holocaust would be too much for them, trying to get these people evacuated, so he's going to go and make his stand. Blink says that she prays. She thanks God that Victor saved her. Victor's like a father to her. And he smiles and says, and when he takes me out, and you know he will, you take him out and say that was for Victor Creed. Rogue tries to stop him. Sabretooth prepares for a fight, but Blink uses her powers, phases her out just a second. Just a second for her to blink Sabretooth to where Holocaust is, so Sabretooth can make his stand. Him and Wildchild appear. He wakes him up. Wildchild, he carries him basically, and he uses him kind of like an attack dog. So yeah, there it is. That's Victor Creed and Wildchild in a nutshell. But anyways, they run into Holocaust, and Holocaust has sent all his men back with the dead bodies so they could process them for soldiers. And basically Holocaust just gives away all his plans and plots, saying that they're not going to live that long, but Victor always has a plan, and he lets Wildchild loose. Wildchild does possess some kind of intelligence. He's not just a wild beast. And the fight begins. Very smart by Victor. Victor's a tactician as well. And he begins to try to beat the brakes off of Holocaust. Holocaust has a lot of power, but he doesn't have a lot of fighting experience. He usually blasts things, and he doesn't have a lot of like hand-to-hand combat. That's where Victor actually does have the advantage. But Holocaust has been in a few fights, and he's able to trick Victor. And Holocaust is going on to explain that he was Nemesis and that Magneto destroyed him over an imaginary slight, which was actually murdering his daughter. And Holocaust says that she should be honored, that she was the first one to die at his hands. And you can tell Holocaust is pretty twisted. I mean, you don't get the name Holocaust for being the most sanest guy, if you know what I mean. But Victor jumps up, feeling a roar, feeling something deep, savage within him, something he's been holding back for years. And he says that if I'm going to die, he's going to take him with him. And he breaks his life support system, using every ounce of energy, strength, as he passes out from the pain, thinking that he's destroyed his enemy. But Holocaust survives. Holocaust still lives. Meanwhile, we're going to go into the X-Men. The X-Men's a story about Nate Gray. He was raised by Forge. And basically they pretend to be a troupe. They go around from place to place, basically just blowing stuff up as they go around, pretending to be a wandering circus. So there it is. And these guys are the hunters. Domino and her crew. They're hunting after this powerful telepath they keep hearing about, Nate Gray. And they've been sent to find him and either bring him into the fold or destroy him. One way or the other, Apocalypse's will must be done. This is another guy, Grizzly. He's basically the muscle of the group. And they're coming in and they're just murdering this guy, who is kind of basically an Omega Red knockoff, I think, or it possibly could be Omega Red, depending on the way this universe works. And of course, they destroy him. This guy's name is Caliban. And basically, he has the power to hunt mutants down. It's kind of like a sixth sense for him. So they're like a team of trackers, basically Apocalypse's hounds. And they're hunting this guy right here, Nathan Gray. And yeah, he's powering up, and he's just discovering his mutant powers. He's been traveling with Forge, who is his father figure. But Forge is a very demanding and strict and disciplined father. And he just grabs him and he starts whacking the crap out of him in front of everyone. Now everyone thinks he, kind of being a little hard on the boy. But they're trying to keep a low profile, and Nate just wants to go off and blow everything up. Now keep in mind they're teamed up with this new guy that they just met named Essex. And if you guys don't know that name, then something sinister this way lurks, if you know what I'm saying. Anyways, Forge is having problems with him, and he realizes that he's driving him, away. But Essex is getting into this guy's head, and like him and Nate, they kind of know each other. They're familiar with each other, so he kind of has a strange familiarity with him, not knowing that he gave him birth, life, and that he's just watching his project, his son, as he gives him the possibility of flying. He uses his powers and takes off, but it comes at a price. His nose starts to bleed. And this is basically where they have a meeting, and of course, this guy drops some information saying that he knows where a processing plant is, and that if you want to do some real damage, they ought to come and blow this place up. And this is where Forge is really not starting to trust this guy, but they take him to the processing plant. And this basically is a recycling center for body parts, marrow, genetic material that they use now to basically crush down, and they make their soldiers from these leftover body parts of all the people. And you can see they're processing their skeletons, their flesh, everything, to make new soldiers for Apocalypse's army. And Nate is basically tired of running. This is supposed to just be a recon mission, but it's going to turn into something else as Nate gets ready to rumble, and he starts blowing things up, and it is on. And yeah, he's just using his powers all willy-nilly. He's barely discovering his powers. As powerful as he is, he still has limits. He's still very green. He's very inexperienced with his powers. And after blowing something up, he ends up getting shot. And this is where Essex, gets amazed that he was taken down so easily. But you have to understand that he's barely using his powers, barely understanding his limits, what he can do. But just when they're about to bring the death blow down, he uses his powers and takes him out. And this is where one of Apocalypse's spies realizes who this kid is. This is the telepath they've been looking for. And of course, Nate's knocked out. They grab him, and Forge is having problems with Essex, and they're going to figure out who this guy is pretty quick. And if you don't know who he is by now, I mean, come on, man. Anyways, Nate decides that he needs to go off by himself. Him and that beautiful redhead decide to take off together. And Nate's going to find out the truth. He's using his astral powers right now, and he did this once before. He ends up in the Winchester house where Magneto is. And Magneto may not be able to see him, but Charles does spy on them. He's able to see them, so he makes you wonder if he has some kind of telepathic power. But Magneto, experienced with different mutants, uses his powers and basically just turns around and, like a pimp, tells him to get the hell out of his house. You just don't mess with Magneto. Magneto's the man in this, and he will lay the pimp hand down upon you. And Nate is all surprised at this. Meanwhile, Brute has finally figured out who this guy is. It's Mr. Sinister, because he experimented on him, and he was able to see through the shape-shifting. And now he has to be taken out. He has to be silenced, because he's not ready to reveal himself. And just when Forge and him are going to have their little fight, Domino busts in with their crew. The prize they sought is won. They have what they're looking for. For Sinister betrayed Apocalypse, and now he must pay in blood. But will they be able to escape this? We'll find out the next time, won't we? And I'll catch you on the flip side. Yeah.